Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Unconventional Attorney Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Small, and I am the Unconventional Attorney. Today, I'm excited to bring you another Attorney X episode. If you are unfamiliar with this, I am basically interviewing anonymously law firm owners from around the globe to find out what's working for them, the kind of revenue that they're really making, the kind of challenges that they're really facing, and uncovering all of the things that they are afraid to expose out there in the real world under their own names. Now, the only way that I can continue to have these interviews is for law firm owners just like you to come on the show. We all get to learn from the information and the experiences we share, and this is my call to action for you to come and join me as an Attorney X guest. It's very simple. It's 20 minutes. And if you come on, I give you a free t-shirt that you can't get anywhere else. So if you walk around and you see people wearing Attorney X t-shirts, it's because they have taken the plunge and they are Attorney X alumni. To sign up is very simple. All you have to do is go to theunconventionalattorney.com/Attorney X. You can pick a date and time that work for you, and when that date and time come, we'll chat. Okay, so that's theunconventionalattorney.com/Attorney X. Go and schedule your date today so we can keep up this really cool deal that we've got going on. All right, now let's get into the show. Hello, friends, and welcome to another Attorney X interview. Today, as you can probably guess, I've got Attorney X here on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, are you ready to tell us all about you and your firm?
I am. Happy to.
Perfect. As a reminder to you and the audience, ask the same questions to every guest on every show and promise anonymity so we can get the raw truth about your law firm. The goal is for all of us to learn from each other by sharing what's really happening inside our firms. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's get into the show. Question number one. How old are you?
I am 40, turning 41 in a couple months.
Nice. Big 40. I'm about to turn 40 in about 6 months. It's my wife's birthday today too, actually.
Hey, happy birthday.
39. Yep, craziness. Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have two kids, ages 7 and 9. And as an aside, my wife is my law partner.
All right. Yes, that is not. I'm going to ask you questions about that in a minute. How long have you been practicing?
15 years.
Okay. What is your primary area of practice?
Plaintiff side litigation, personal injury, with some plaintiff side employment litigation.
Okay. What's the story like? How'd you get into that?
So I started my career, as most young lawyers do, working for a mid-sized litigation defense firm. Worked for them for about 7 years. The entrepreneurial piece of me did not like the sort of slow-moving culture at defense firms. I also didn't like doing defense work. I wasn't inspired by it. And so it got to a point where I decided that it was time to make a move, and I just went on my own and started a practice.
How long ago was that?
This year will be 10. I'll hit 10 years in April.
10 years in April. Okay, cool, man. That's about me too, actually. I think I'll be 11. I'll be 11, I think, in April.
It goes fast.
It does go. It does go fast. Why? Is there any particular reason why you picked even litigation to begin with, or why you stuck with it when you went out on your own?
No, that's a good question. I didn't pick it to begin with. I was one of those guys who went to law school thinking I was going to be a corporate litigator or a corporate attorney, not knowing what that meant. And then just by default, having fallen into a position with a litigation firm, it was what I learned. Going on my own, I knew that I didn't want to bill hours. I thought and continue to think that it's a really inefficient way to run and grow a business, and it's completely thankless. So I knew that I had to do something that was alternative fee. I I'm not risk averse, obviously having started a firm. So I was comfortable with contingency based practice. And so, that's how we've done it and how we've continued to do it. I will say, in part from some of our conversations and in part with some other conversations with other people, we've added an estate planning component to the practice within the last few months that we're slowly rolling out with the hopes of transitioning a fair part of our practice to this flat fee estate based planning over the next few years.
Yep. We'll get I'll circle right back around on that too.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. What all right, so this is something I think is I'm interested in and is important for any of those people that are thinking about going and doing like a PI practice or any sort of a contingency based practice, is did you have, like, how did you eat for like the first 6 months?
My wife at the time was working for the largest firm in the area, like a very prestigious white shoe firm. So we had an income when I went out on my own. So there was no real pressure to, earn a lot of money that first year. And frankly, I didn't. So.
Right. Well, it's hard with it's important to have low expectations, I think, for any practice. But if you're doing a contingency based practice, let's say it takes you a month to find your first client. Well, then it's going to take however many months to just get the case resolved and then get paid, right? Because you don't get paid until the end, right?
Realistically, that's still an issue, and that's part of the reason for our addition of a new practicer, which maybe we'll come back to that.
Yep. Okay, so did you in addition to, I guess, in concert with your wife being able or continued or working while you did this, did you have any other funding? Did you bring anything to the table, even if it was, any $100 just to make a website? Like, what'd you start with?
Yeah. So, I had some money saved aside to start, and I'm not talking about a lot of money, maybe like a few $1,000s. And I was able to use that along with, I had a couple of billable cases at the beginning to generate some revenue. And I took a handful of plaintiff side cases with me when I left, but to be very honest, when I started out, I was taking like assigned criminal cases. I took a couple of assigned family court cases. I was doing real estate closings for the first probably 6 months. I was more of a door lawyer because, you gotta try to keep the lights on and do that kind of thing. And then, I sort of dialed it in around 6 months or a year and kind of built, tried to establish some level of a niche, and strictly stick to the more contingency based stuff.
Yep. How did you, so did your first clients came from sort of leaving the firm, and some people just came with you somehow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They came with me.
How did do you remember where your first non sort of come with, I can't even know anymore. What's that called? Non come with client? That's a terrible.
Yeah. Well, so right out of the gate, I started reading books about legal marketing and business development. And so I started, writing blog posts and, put up a website. And in my area, other than like the commercial TV people, PI lawyers, there weren't a lot of people doing that stuff. So I started writing, a lot, and we started getting leads from websites and, from newsletters and that kind of thing. So we pretty quickly built like a list of our contacts and started sending, weekly or biweekly newsletters, and just try to, mine anything we could to get those kind of cases.
Yep. What do you to sort of like big time switch gears, do you work out of your home or do you have an office?
No, we have an office, a brick and mortar that's like 3 blocks down the street from my house, so I can walk here. We've gone back and forth over the years. A couple years into the practice, we actually eliminated the office and built like a home office in our detached pool house. But ultimately, a lot of people made sort of passive comments about it, like, "Oh, you're working out of your house," and whether it was an insecurity thing or a concern about legitimacy, we decided that we wanted to have an office, although I still work from home a couple days a week.
Yep. Cool. And then we already sort of mentioned this, but you are, aside from the estate planning is flat fee, and the plaintiff's work is contingency, right?
Yeah.
All right. What who makes up your firm? You and your wife? Do you have staff? Do you have paralegals? Do you have admin people?
Yeah.
What do you got?
So we have because we've done so much employment litigation, we are actually somewhat skeptical of employees generally.
Nice.
And we've had a handful of not great ones over the years and a couple of really good ones. At the moment, we have a paralegal, and that's it. And I'm in the process of building out an ad to hire a part-time marketing assistant starting next year. And that's kind of it at the moment. We have an answering service who answers our phones, and we try to outsource some stuff for intake. But I'm not a natural corporate person, and I'm not a great boss, I think, because I kind of like to do my own thing.
Sure.
So I even when I look at the long-term future of a firm, I think maybe 2 or 3 employees probably at most.
Yeah. What was the first position that you hired for?
Like receptionist, admin.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So to switch gears again, 2018 revenue. What did you guys make?
So this year was a bit of a down year because the nature of our contingency practice is that, there are significant ebbs and flows. So we did about 400,000 this year, slightly under that at this point, I think about 375. Most of our plaintiffs' cases, frankly, we didn't settle a lot of cases this year. We probably settled less than 10 cases this year. And so, for the coming year, the projections are significantly higher, and that's kind of the way it goes. There's a lot of ebb and flow.
How do you manage that?
Still working on it. I try to sleep at night. No, realistically, so I have a sort of a system that I've been implementing. It's called like the profit first system. Yeah. Where we allocate a portion of every dollar that comes in to sort of different buckets, with the idea being that, we build up our payroll bucket, our operating bucket, our, profit bucket, so that we can weather, kind of downturns, and so that, we can consistently spend the same money every month. So it doesn't feel like, hey, we got a settlement, we're flush with cash now. That has been an issue. There have been times we've had really good years where, it seems that maybe money flew a little bit too easily out. So, the reality is that you definitely have to be comfortable with, if you're going to do this kind of work, the ups and downs of it. We have line of credit and we've used it. And, understanding that, if in times when you have to use it, it just has to get paid back when you have more flush times. But that was part of the impetus again for trying to build out the additional practice area.
Yep. How many hours a week do you work on average?
Physically in the office, I'm in the office about 20, 25 hours a week. I'm sort of on maybe 30-ish hours a week. It's rare that I'll work a 40+ hour week.
That's awesome. Where do the majority of your clients come from? Let's talk about your sort of PI, your plaintiffs' clients, your contingency clients.
Yeah. So we get a ton of leads from our website for our employment law practice, like discrimination and sexual harassment on the plaintiff side. And we turn away most of them. So, we take probably 1 out of about 100, but we have a pretty good system in place for weeding through those. So we don't even talk with almost any of them. And then our PI stuff comes from our website. We spent a lot of time over the years writing a lot of articles and putting a lot of videos on the website and YouTube. And that, it really is it just keeps running and keeps kind of spitting out new leads. And so, we kind of built out a couple little sub niches that generate leads from our website on the PI space. And then, referrals. We get referrals from former clients, other attorneys, family members. We send out a weekly newsletter, email newsletter. We send out a monthly print newsletter. And so, that has generated, a good amount of our casework over the last like 5 or so years, to the point where, we're pretty close to being at where we are comfortable being in terms of the number of cases that we have.
Yeah. Love it. What is your biggest challenge right now?
Cash flow is a big challenge. Just, with the nature of contingency fee practice, you might have $1.5 million or $2 million worth of cases in the hopper, and it's getting those cases through. That's the hard part. Defense attorneys more and more just delay cases as long as possible, and it's very frustrating. So moving cases through is a big challenge. Continuing to try to refine, what we're known for and who we're sort of known as, rather than just being, some other generic firm on the street is always a challenge, I think.
Yep. What is your, what's your big goal for the next 12 months, or let's say for like 2020? Yeah.
I mean, my arbitrary goal for 2020 is to break $1 million in revenue. And, understanding that doesn't actually really mean anything. More realistically, the goal is to generate enough cash flow to be comfortable for a 2-year lead stretch, and practically to build up the estate planning part of our practice to a point where, we're generating 4 or more leads per month by like middle of next year in that area.
Yeah, you can do that easy. Are you guys creating content around estate planning?
Yes, but that's every time I get your Sunday email, I'm reminded that. I should actually say one of my goals is to become to get a better routine for content creation and marketing. I'm someone who has a bit of like a squirrel mentality. And so I'm at the next nut, and so it's really like limiting the things that I'm paying attention to, and trying to really dial it in to the things that matter and that actually move the needle. So, that's the focus of my morning contemplations of lately. So
nice. Love it. All right. Couple more and then when we're done. How long did it take for you to start? This question is not a great question. Hopefully you'll get the gist of it. How long did it take before you start to feel like you had something secure, like with your firm? Does that make sense?
It does. And it's funny because I had a trial with one of the most well-respected lawyers in the area, maybe 5 years ago, and I beat him, but that's sort of beside the point. I remember talking to him during the trial, and he made a comment about, he said, a day never goes by when I'm not worried that the phone's going to stop ringing, and it never does stop ringing. And so that sort of hit home with me, and that's kind of how I still feel.
Yeah.
The phone rings every day. We get new leads every day, and I'm always thinking about continuing to make that happen. So, I would say a couple of years in, I probably felt like this is something that we can do long-term, that this can work. But at the same time, I don't feel that, I've never felt like I can just sit back and relax. And maybe that's my personality. And, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that personality that, you never really feel like you've arrived. And I remember reading a book by John Morgan, this big plaintiff's lawyer who's got, God only knows how many offices they have in the South, but Morgan. But he kind of said the same thing. He wakes up every day and worries that, phone's going to stop ringing. So that's the long way of saying that while I felt for several years that this was going to work, I never truly feel like I can just sit back and, sit in a lounge chair or play golf every day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's how everybody feels. All right. So to wrap it up, what's sort of your best piece of advice for all the law firm owners listening out there?
So, I think my best piece of advice for anybody in these positions is that you've got to be willing to take a risk, because, I think the worst thing you can do is just be complacent and look back in 5 years and think like, oh man, I should have done something. Because the downside is rarely as bad as you think it's going to be. And the worst case scenario, in my experience, rarely actually comes to fruition. So I think calculated risk is important in life, and it helps you grow.
Yeah, great advice. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for your time and your transparency, and welcome to the Attorney X Alumni Association.
Thanks, Chris. This is great.
That's a wrap, everybody. Thanks again for listening. I really appreciate your time and attention. And a reminder, if you want to keep the Attorney X series going, there's only one way to do that, to get more of you on the show. To schedule a time to talk with me, talk about your firm anonymously, and get that free t-shirt, go to theunconventionalattorney.com/attorneyx. That's theunconventionalattorney.com/attorneyx. Can't wait to have you on the show. See ya.